Thank you for giving me a few minutes to speak to you about the Lift High Your Legacy campaign. There will be time at the end of this video presentation for questions, and by asking your questions, you will show us what we need to communicate to the rest of the congregation. And St. Andrew's is a church that is steeped in history and the legacy of faithful believers. In a few short years, our congregation will enter its 175th year of worship and praise to God. And throughout our history, building space has always been an obstacle that congregations before us have had to address. During the first few decades of our congregation's existence, we bounced around from upstairs bar rooms to the Temperance Hall just to manage to gather and worship God together. It wasn't until after the Civil War that in the year 1877, our chapel was built on the corner of a dusty market and Crockett Street. And this ability to adapt building and worship space continued throughout the next century of St. Andrew's existence. And the new church that would help meet the needs of a growing St. Andrew's was built almost 40 years ago. But it was more than just a new church. It was stepping out in faith and asking the question, what does God want me to do here at St. Andrew's? At the time, the congregation knew that the building of a new church was truly stepping out on the limbs of faith. And the hope was that in somehow and in some way, that the building of a new church might allow us to live more fully as the branches of Jesus Christ. When you walk across our campus and into our buildings, you can see the fruits of labor of almost 2 centuries of work. And now it is our time to add to that legacy. It is our time to recognize that the growth that our church has and will continue to experience. And prior to 2020, we had an average Sunday attendance in the mid-90s. We now are experiencing a Sunday attendance nearing 120. And we have also grown in so many other ways. In our outreach to the local community, forging relationships with local schools and other organizations. We have fortified ecumenical relationships with other local churches in our community, solidifying that we believe in the hope of unity that Jesus brings. And we have grown in our openness, grown in our hope. We have grown in love, and we have grown in joy. And now I believe we have also grown in the faith of a promising future. However, growth into that promising future requires this congregation to take a hard look at the future needs of the people who might come to live and grow here at St. Andrew's. We must acknowledge that many of our buildings come with a high maintenance cost that directly impacts our ability to do ministry. And we must move from being a church that has to choose from high maintenance costs over ministry. And into that end, the vestry approved the Lift High Your Legacy campaign in order to develop a master plan that would allow our campus to grow into that future hope and dream that God has for us and that God is showing us now. And we surveyed the congregation, and it became quite clear that upgrading and creating more accommodating space inside Makia Hall was of paramount concern. And we have set out with a hopeful ask of $800,000 to meet the improvement needs of our parish hall. And we decided to name our campaign the Lift High Your Legacy campaign because that is what we intend to do. To understand that God has placed us at a time in our parish's history that is filled with hope and joy, love and openness. And we intend to lift up that legacy to God and with God. And whether you have been here for over 100 years and your family history dates back to the early years of the congregation, or you happened upon St. Andrew's rather recently, your legacy is included in that legacy that continues here at St. Andrew's. And we are going to lift up each and every one of those legacies together into the great legacy of God so that God can do with them what only God can do. And I am excited that even through these seemingly difficult times that our wider world has experienced, our church has risen to show great strength and growth in ways that seem miraculous and spirit-driven. And the success of this campaign requires each household and each member to reflect on God's promise and their lives and how we might invest in the future of the ministry of our church. And moreover, it requires each of us to ask ourselves how we are going to invest in the future generation who will one day inherit this holy ground from us. And every generous commitment, regardless of size, will be needed as we continue to live into the dream that God has in store for us. And please know that each and every generous commitment will be enthusiastically received. Here are some of the things you can look forward to in the next coming weeks from our campaign team. A campaign brochure with more specific ideas and goals will be sent to every household in our church on December 6th. Our prayer team will be praying for each and every one of our members and the success of our campaign. Our early commitment works will include opportunities for families to prayerfully discern their commitments prior to Commitment Sunday in order to provide our congregation momentum for the campaign. There will be several celebratory events and, of course, every Episcopalian's favorite, a sermon series. Above and beyond all those things, we do want to ask every person who attends our church and finds connection with God here at St. Andrew's to pray for this campaign so that it may be surrounded in prayer. And we ask that you pray one simple prayer. God, what do you want to do through me? It is our desire in this growing community of Christ that each and every member might pray for the needs of the church, for the needs of its people, the needs of its leaders, that we will continue to open our hearts and our doors. And I pray that each of you will lift high your legacies and give back to God as God has given to us. And I thank you for taking the time to listen to this video, and you may now ask your leader any questions you may have.